So I get asked a lot about how to get started in investing in multifamily. And the exciting thing about this guest today is that I met him, I want to say 3 years ago in Miami. We're at the Grant Cardone Real Estate Conference. Met him with his wife, his better half. And, at that time he had done well, but was really leveling up to another level of bringing other students along with him, going into multifamily out of flipping. And I've watched the last 3 years his business really take off. It's really exciting to see and maybe to join him along the way in my own path to watch him grow so tremendously. Really excited to have today from Houston, Texas, Luis Salavarria. Well, Luis, thank you so much for coming back to our call.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you for having me here again, once again.
One of my favorites. And this is we just renamed this now, the Cash Flow Chronicles Podcast. I'm Bill Gross, and this is the podcast associated with the LA County Real Estate Investors Association. LAREIC.com is the website. If you want to join us, we have a free event once a month on the second Thursday. And we have both education and networking, and love to have you guys join us. So thank you so much for their sponsorship. So Luis, let's talk a little bit. I know you're in Houston, but you used to be, I think, in California. I know today you're in multifamily and you bring people in, but I know when I met you, you were just transitioning from focusing more on house flipping. So talk about your journey from investor one house at a time into multifamily and passive income.
Of course, yeah. So let me tell you kind of what I did, which is what a lot of people do, but it doesn't mean that that's what you have to do. If you're listening or watching this right now, that doesn't mean that you have to do it the same way that I did it, right? I wanted to invest in real estate. I wanted to do something for my own, and I wanted to do that because I read this book by Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad Poor Dad, right? Which I'm sure a lot of you guys have known about it or read about it or even listened to it, right?
And if not, you should. It really is just a classic book that everybody in real estate investing should learn for sure.
And if not, yes, you definitely should. And for me right now, that's a really basic book. But when you read it, and if you don't know anything, that's one of the best books because you don't know anything. And nobody's teaching this stuff out there. Or so I thought anyway, right? To the masses. And so it really got me thinking that I needed to do something in real estate. He doesn't really teach that in his book, but he puts that seed in you so you can do something later, and that's what I realized. And so at the time, that was like in 2006, when I had my first opportunity of buying a piece of property, buying a piece of land actually, and this was in Brazil. I was there with my wife. We were there because of her job. And I decided this was my opportunity. I was going to find a piece of land. I was going to find, contractors. I was going to find the way to build something there, and that's kind of what I did. I went for it. I didn't know the language because in Brazil they speak Portuguese and I only knew Spanish from Venezuela. And but I said to hell with it. I'll just go and plunge myself into this, and I did that. And we built 5 houses in a little corner lot. We sold them all. And that's how I realized that this was a good thing to do and replicate, right? Now, there comes a point where, you make a lot of mistakes. You learn from them, of course, if you're clever enough and if you're fortunate enough, you learn from them and move on. But what I want to get at, Bill, is that you don't have to go that way. You don't have to go that route. There are easier ways. Right now, looking back, there are a lot of easier ways to do that. I only did that because I wanted to prove to myself that I could do it, right? But if you are sitting in a place where you are, say, for example, in the corporate world, because I know my wife's friends, they were in the corporate world. They still are, and she still is, right? That doesn't mean that you have to leave all that if you don't want to. If you have a successful career and if you like what you're doing, you don't have to leave that. Right. But you can invest with other people that do that, like me, and we love what we're doing. I love what I'm doing. I love going through the different steps of getting a property on the contract. I love negotiating with the sellers. I love negotiating with the brokers as well for multifamily deals. And it's a challenge for sure sometimes. But what I'm saying is that you don't have to go through those challenges. You can do it passively, you know, and that's kind of where I am right now. I'm doing more for my friends, for my investors, for my family to invest with me than me just doing it on my own. That's kind of what I'm doing right now.
Got it. And so you are doing, when you say passive income to other people, what you're doing is you're allowing them to ride along with you. They put some money up and you're doing the hard work, and then they can watch and learn along the way. So they can also learn in a slower format, but that works for them if they're working full time.
Yeah. And they can do, I tell them, I mean, like I tell you guys, you can do it as passively or as actively as you can, or as you want to. But you don't have to do what I did, is what I'm saying.
Right.
You don't have to feel pressured into, oh man, that sounds a lot of work. I mean, I still have my job, and I have the kids, I have the family, I have this, and I have that, and I'm not sure if I want to do all that. You don't have to, is what I'm saying.
Right.
You can if you want to, but you don't have to.
So to kind of update, where you are as far as your business. I know on your website, of course, we all struggle keeping our websites up to date. And I just point out, anybody who hits this, when you first go to AmericanAssetLegacy.com, there's a Spanish version. Yo hablo español, pero no me permite hacer un podcast en español. Así necesito transducir en inglés. I can speak a little bit of Spanish, but not good enough to do a whole podcast. So I'm going to hit the English version. And so you have own property, but you have 475 units that you're invested in. Describe kind of what you're invested in, and then how investors are playing along with you on that.
Sure. So right now we have, as the website says, we are invested in more than almost like 500 units right now. And that means that we're invested as partners in some of those deals and as operators in other deals, right? And right now, I actually want to increase that number to at least 1,000 by the end of the year. And I'm confident that I will get that. Just because I'm working towards that goal, right?
Yeah.
So the idea is just to bring people along the way, meaning if they have the funds to invest and they don't have the time to dedicate to do something actively in real estate, we can set up a working relationship with you guys so we can both benefit and you can invest with us.
And you're not talking about
returns.
I'm sorry, I mean something. So
yeah.
We're not talking about stepping in on one property we're buying and fix and flipping. You're talking about multifamily where you're buying something and then you're spreading your money out amongst a much larger project. The idea being to spread out the risk and also get into an asset class that has a little better return, a more stable return in the long run. So let's talk a little bit about the multifamily projects that you're involved with. Geographically, I know you're in Houston. Is your product limited to Houston? Is that the area that you're working exclusively? Do you work in the greater Houston area? Do you work across the United States? Where are you doing your business?
Sure. So right now, yes, I'm in Houston, Texas. And I know Texas. I know the area here in Houston, but I also know Texas. And we have a team that works mainly in Texas. But remember that, I mean, like if you are in California, for example, as you are, Bill, a lot of the money in California is actually being moved to places where it's treated better than in California. You can still get the life that you get in California, which we don't get in Texas, unfortunately, but you don't have to pay as much taxes or in taxes, so you can actually invest here with us. And it doesn't have to be with us. I'm just going to say right. You don't have to invest with us. You just have to invest somewhere that your money is going to go farther and for longer periods of time, and generating cash flow to you, But yes, coming back to your question, yes, we are in Texas. One of these deals is in Florida, actually. And one of the other deals that we have right now is in Texas, in Houston, just because I know the areas, right? It's better when you know where you're investing in, because it makes it easier to find the people, to find the infrastructure and all that.
What kind of projects are you typically investing in? Is it up and running? Is it something that you're adding value to? Are you doing a substantial rehabilitation? How will you define the project when you buy it, and then what it looks like, say, 3 or 5 years down the road?
Right. So basically, we talk to brokers, and we have a specific criteria for buying, and that includes properties or projects that at least they have at least 100 units, so 100 apartments, right? So they have to be bigger properties, and these properties are usually in the millions of dollars. That doesn't mean that you have to have millions of dollars to buy it, or not all of you are going to have that anyway, and you don't have to, right? You just have to need a property that is good, that is cash flowing. That's what we're looking for. Also, something that is cash flowing right now, something that could be, I guess, make better if you value add, as you said, right? If you improve some of the facilities, or if you improve some of the inside of the apartments, you're gonna get more rent, and there is a direct relationship between rent and income and the value of the property, right? So by improving this just a little bit, the value of the property improves a lot. I mean, there are formulas that we can talk about that and how that works, but basically, if you increase, I don't know, like $50, the rent only $50, you're gonna get, probably $1 million or more in valuation, in increase for that value of that property, depending on how big it is, of course, how many units, how many apartments there are, but that's kind of the measure that we're looking for.
So what's the most common package of improvements that you make when you buy property? Do you do, paving? Are you adding facilities? Are you upgrading? You're planning to upgrade the units inside all of them over time? What's the most common kind of package of improvements that you're looking to make to bring value to the property?
So the most common would be painting, of course. A fresh coat of paint, it really goes a long way. It doesn't seem like it seems trivial, but it does go a long way.
It really does.
Painting inside, then, of course, if you can resurface the counters, for example, the countertops, you can either resurface them or you can just change them outright. Granted, not all of the time changing the countertops is going to be needed. It really depends on the location of your property. If the location of your property is in a C-class type of neighborhood, maybe you don't need to change the countertops. You just need to resurface them and make it, look nicer. Mm-hmm. That's one of the other things that really improves the look of your apartment. And that's also inside the apartment, right? Also, there are packages like lighting packages, like LED lighting and stuff that makes it look nicer without you putting a lot of money into that. So those are the type of improvements that you can do. There are more like cosmetics, and that really go a long way. You can do that also in the bathroom as well, not only in the kitchen, right? That's for the counters and for the lighting and everything else. Sometimes you change the carpets, sometimes you just replace them and put either new ones or put new flooring in there. But that's a little bit more involved, because that's going to take a little bit more time and money. And it depending on where and the location, depending on where the location for the property is, maybe you don't want to do that necessarily.
Well, and so it sounds like you're taking fairly modest improvements, which I think on one hand gets you nice modest improvements in rents, as you mentioned, that get leveraged up, but also less risk. And I know that I got involved in some investments where they did substantial value add, and they really become construction projects, and you require special financing. And so the more dramatic changes you make, the more risks, the more reward, more risk, and they go together. And so it sounds to me like you're looking for more modest improvements in a property overall going forward.
Yeah, and I'm going to tell you why I'm looking for those instead of the big construction projects, because I've done them all. I've done those too. I've done the big construction projects, and the things with them, Bill, is that they take time, they take money, and if it was only those two, you would be okay, because you're investing, based on risk, right? So
Right.
you're putting more time, so you're putting more risk into the equation, so you should get more rewards in theory, right? In theory. Now, the practice of it sometimes is that when you open up a wall, you find there is, termites, or there is, a clog in one of the drains, and you have to address that. And just by addressing that, then another unit just suffers. So you have to take the people from that unit into some other unit, or tell them that, it's going to take a while. So you start getting all these problems, right, that you think you're going to get rewarded on later, and you end up not getting that money.
Right.
So and that happens a lot of the times,
right.
So it's happened to me. That's why I'm saying it. It's happened to me before. So now, what I'm doing is just learning from those mistakes and just applying the best possible answer or solution before these things happen.
Yeah, I think that like everything else in life, I think so many people were successful during the boom of 2020, 21. Everything looked good. Every theory made sense. But I think now we're back to more fundamentals, and the fundamentals are, you improve things, you get a return. But you take on a big project, and unless your goal in life is to be a construction company, I think you end up taking on some risks that you might not want to at the end of the day. So let me do some housekeeping real quick. I'm really excited to have our guest today, a friend of mine who I've known for years now, Luis Salavarria, who is a multifamily investor, done a lot of fix and flips, used to be in California, now in Houston, Texas, has been there for years. And I saw him kind of launch this program 3 years ago. We met at the Grant Cardone Real Estate Conference. I know that's where he really got focused on this new direction about 3 years ago. And so this is our host today. You can find him at AmericanAssetLegacy.com, and they have both English and Spanish versions. So again, if you want to practice your Spanish, click on there. And if you are like me, a gringo, better off hitting with the English version. But he does a lot of Spanish and has a podcast in Spanish, which I think is really exciting. And then he has if you're interested in some additional information on doubling your investments, go to luissalvaria.com/double. I'll put that in the description down below. And you watch a video. And what do you get for that? You get a download of some sort, don't you?
Yeah. So basically what you get is a little guide. So I can show you how to double your money passively. You don't have to do anything. I could do the heavy lifting. How you can actually double your money in real estate passively. And we show you how we do that.
So if you're interested, hit that. And that's luissalvaria.com/double. We'll put the link down below. And then this podcast is the official podcast for the LA County Real Estate Investor Association. LAREIC.com is the website. We have a live event in Los Angeles every second Thursday of the month. We get about 250 people. And we also have a vendors expo where we have about 50 vendors. I'm one of them. That kind of looks like that, where you can learn from different professionals who can give you services, and insurance companies, inspectors, coaching companies, and so on, and participate. And then as well, they have a great speaker every month. Coming up in May 9th are going to be some amazing ladies. Deborah, I'm drawing a blank on Salsa. I'm drawing a blank on her name, and we were actually going to meet again this week and on the podcast. Deborah Razzo is the leader of the Women's Real Estate Network, and then she's going to bring 3 of the superstars on there. That's May 9th. It's a free event. Scroll down and hit this for more information. We have vendors before that, other programs as well that they participate. And lastly, this podcast is the Cash Flow Chronicles Podcast. I'll put the link in the chat box as well. Let them sign up. If you're getting this, though, if you're in the real estate network, you're going to get that. And we actually just rebranded. So the logo hasn't been updated yet. Neither has a name. That's going to happen this week. We just finalized the new logo recently. So there's all that. Okay. So we talked a little bit about your past investing program and multifamily investing in general. Let's talk about let's start from the beginning, which is the personal mindset and commitment to really improving yourself and working hard and knowing what's possible. I know when I met you, we both were at the Grant Cardone 10X conference, and while there was a lot of technical procedures and processes and systems, a lot of it was just saying you can do this too. At least that was what the message I got, that you could 10x your income, you could 10x your wealth, you can build a business, be successful. So talk a little bit about how that message called to you and what you do to continue that message in your life going forward.
Of course. Yeah, you know what? You're 100% right. When we met at the Grant Cardone's event in Miami, I had already started my journey into improving all areas of myself, like my life and all that, my family, health, income, wealth, and all that. But also, it didn't stop there, and I guess sometimes we get the wrong notion that when we were in school, that's when all the learning stopped. We were out of school. That's it. Finally, I'm going to be, I learned everything that I needed to learn. Mm-hmm. But when we leave school, and I mean like university or college, we leave when we're like maybe 22, 23, 25. And we're going to leave at least, I'm planning to live like to 120, So it doesn't really make any sense to me or anybody else that by that age, less than 30, I learned everything that I was going to learn forever.
Right.
That's not the case.
Right.
In all the aspects that you are living in your life, So I'm always trying to improve myself. I have a goal of reading a book every 5 or 6 days, right? Or at least listening to it, right? Because my idea is to try to get to at least 62 a year. Why 62 a year? Because I read somewhere that 62 is the number of books that the average CEO reads to keep up to date. And that's, I think, in my theory, that's how they become CEOs. And it's not the other way around. I don't think it's that because they are CEOs, they have to read 62 books. I think it's because they were reading, they became CEOs.
Interesting.
So I'm still trying to get to that goal. And to be honest, I've been reading since pretty much when we left that conference in Miami, Bill, in 2021. And up to date, I've read already almost 250 books.
Wow, very nice.
So and it's amazing. I'm telling you, they're amazing. The amount of change that I can see in myself, my family, my wife, my kids, my wealth. Everything is changed because I changed this. What you have here, inside of your 2 years, right? And it's good that you asked me that question, because if I can impose that on you guys, do that. Do that. Learn from books. It's so cheap. Books are really underrated because a lot of people don't read them. They think that what they pay is the amount of the value that they're gonna get, and what you pay for a book is between 10 and $20, and you think that you're gonna get a 10 to $20 value idea, but it's not. Definitely not. There are some amazing books, and if you get just one idea and practice it from every single book that you read, your life is going to be 100% different in just 1 year.
Do you consume books reading them? Do you use Audible?
I listen to them. I listen to them because I found that that's the medium that I actually get the most out of, because I'm reading or listening to these books. So I'm absorbing them while I'm doing exercise, or while I'm, doing stuff that is like normal chores, or when I'm just taking my kids from one point A to point B type of location. When their practices are on, I just listen to books all the time, and I'm taking notes as well.
I if there's one indulgence I have, it's books. From a long time ago, I heard this pitch, and so I made the decision that I would always quickly buy a book, meaning, I might look at other things and save money here or there. I like paper books. I like the hardcover rather than paperback. So sometimes I spend $30 or $40 instead of $10 or $15, but I enjoy it. And so my one indulgence, as a result, I am constantly piling up books and then taking them to Goodwill. I don't quite read 62 a year. I probably read about 30 books a year, maybe 40, but I have for a long time. And so I've gone through a lot of books over the years. But I have to say to everybody that there's something about consuming information that changes your not just your mindset, but your character, because then you don't know everything, right? The worst place to be in business is to be the smartest person in the group. You can't grow. You're not going to get new ideas. You're not going to break through. And I think that reading always forces you to learn from somebody else and be available to it. So it's a fantastic idea. Obviously, you would download on your program for passive investing. But if you were to recommend one or two, and I will add one other thing. As a real estate broker, I made the habit on every closing, I send a book to the buyer's agent who sold my listing. Most commonly nowadays, I use the 10X Grant Cardone book. I just feel like I want to give an agent a chance to really transform their business. That book has been transformational to me. And do they read or not? I don't know. I can't control that, but I can give it to them as a gift. And so I think the goal here, and that's why we're on this call today, is for those of you who are watching this, we're doing this for you, right? I already know Luis. I don't need to do a podcast with him to talk to him. I could call on the phone and we could chat, which we've done. But more importantly, this is our chance both to reach out to inspire you. So, Luis, if you were going to recommend one or two books to somebody who's not a reader, get them started, that might be transformational. I think you mentioned one in the beginning was Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Yeah.
The best ever. Anybody investing in real estate should read it. Any real estate professional should read it. Play the game, read the book. 100%. If you need a video, audio, read it. I'm 100% behind that one. Can you name one or two other books that you would recommend to somebody that might be transformational for them?
For sure. Let me tell you one of the biggest books or like the most mind-changing books that I read so far. One of them is called Clarity by Jamie Smart. This is a book that is going to help you think about what's important in life. And because a lot of the times you're thinking about, the next thing, right? Literally the next thing, meaning, what I have to do tomorrow or what I have to do in the afternoon, right? If it's a morning, right? But this book actually helps you, think about clarity in terms of, do I need to be thinking about, I don't know, buying a new car or washing the car that I have, or, taking the kids here and there, or do I have to watch that series on Netflix? It's going to make you think about the important stuff versus the urgent stuff, right? And it's going to give you clarity because it's going to tell you how to get to do more stuff that you need to do versus a lot of stuff that you don't need to do and you don't even need in your life. And you're going to get rid of the notion that you don't have time. Right. Because everybody has the same 24 hours. So the difference must be, what people are like, more successful people are doing in those 24 hours. Wow. And that's really there is to it, right? So I would say get Clarity from Jerry Smart. Right. That's one of them.
I already put my Amazon list here, so it's my next book. I'm going to buy it at Amazon. Thank you. Perfect. I don't know this book. It's the first I've heard of it, so I'm going to, on your recommendation, buy it. I'm always looking for something to read, but I think that the concept makes sense to me because when I coach agents, so often they'll say things like, "Well, I'm going to think about it." And I say, "No. You're really not going to think about it. You're going to think about thinking about it. It's going to stick in your brain like 20 other things that you're not actually doing." Because you're not clear on what you're supposed to do. And you don't have a clear system for organizing your thoughts. And so put in your calendar, if you need to think about something, a major decision, moving or a deal, put in your calendar time to think about it so you can have some clarity on that subject. And I do find that people ask about things, in the moment I'm in, I don't think about everything else because I try to be locked in here. And so clarity is so important, but I've not read the book. I'm not familiar with it. I'm going to go ahead and buy that next. Any other last pearl you would throw in?
Of course. And
that was a good one. So I'm going to pump you for all I can.
I'm going to give you another one that I know a lot of people know about, or maybe they heard about it, but a lot of people haven't read it still. And it's called Secrets of the Millionaire Mind by T. Harv Eker. and that's another really good book. And it really helps you because it really tells you, don't settle, and it's all about the same 10x mentality that you get from that's the one. Yeah. So it's that you get from Grant Cardone, right? So you get from Grant, try to always strive for being 10x, right?
Mhm.
And so in this book, Harbecker actually goes and he tells you, don't settle, don't think about the little things. If you can do, 1,000, why not do 10,000? And if you can do 10,000, why not do 100,000? So stop thinking about this is basically just like what I need to barely survive. What I need is just like I would be happy if I had 5K or 10K in extra income. That's good as a really, really, really small beginner's goal, right? But then if you want to grow to your potential and to your family's potential and to your community's potential, which is going to come later, then you have to think bigger. You have to think bigger.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you won't be able to help anybody. I mean, not yourself, let alone anybody else.
100%. Well, I think that so many of us go through life small, and I had this challenge every day. We all do forever, right? I'm sure Grant Cardone will tell you he has the same challenge, is that he gets to a certain level and, he, needs to challenge himself to open up to go even bigger than he has, because it's just a natural inclination to be satisfied with what we have and to accept what we have as being finite. And I think that it's an insult to our ability, it's an insult to our creator to say that we have limitations. Our limits are our creativity and our willingness to work at something. And so that's a great one. I want to say one of the advantages in the time that we live in today, for people who hear, you or me talk about books, and they'll say, well, I don't have much money. The truth is, it's free. These books are all available on YouTube, audio version for free. Most of them, like T. Harv Ekker's book, is also available online in the PDF for free. That's a classic. It's been around. Think and Grow Rich and Richest Man in Babylon. The greatest books are all available in written format online for free, in audio. That wasn't true when I started out. When I started out, because I'm older, it took real cash to buy these things, and to buy audio books, or you buy cassette tape books and such. It was expensive. Not anymore. And so we live in an opportunity now where the challenge is not just finding good information, but it's sifting out the bad information to make time for the good information. So many people won't have time to read a book, but they'll watch football or baseball or basketball, and they'll tell you every detail about some team. And it's not that my life is boring. It's just I've done a lot of that, and there's more to life. And so for all of you watching, I would really urge you, make a commitment to have a learning time, to have a system in place of watching and listening and learning. My favorite coach, my first coach, was Zig Ziglar. He said, you can change who you are and you can change what you are by changing what goes into your mind. And so you want to change your results, just like Luis said, it starts with between your own ears, and then the rest will take place.
100%. 100%, Bill.
Now, I know you've gone through some changes. If it's too personal, feel free to let me know. I have met your wife. Since I've watched you integrate your business with your kids, your son, I think in particular, is involved in your real estate business.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about changing a family life, because you weren't where you are now 3 years ago. I saw in your wife a desire to change, but you got to kind of get your family on board. And then if they're used to some of you in bad habits, if you're going to change your habits, you also have to kind of pull them along. There's naturally some resistance. Talk a little bit about being the leader in your family and making that happen.
Of course, and it's great that you're actually giving me the opportunity to talk about that, because that really is where I'm passionate about. I've realized that also goes hand in hand with the learning part. So as I told you before, I'm listening to books about finance, about real estate, about investing, but I didn't stop there. So there's a section of books that I'm listening to about how to become a better parent, how to become a better husband, how to become a better, society member. So I'm always trying to strive to be better, right? And in turn, I didn't realize that at the time, but now in turn I realized that by changing myself, I'm changing them. Of course, they're not really changing. I'm just changing the perspective of me
Right.
seeing them, right?
Right.
So now I see that it's easier for me to talk to my family, to speak to my wife, to teach my children as well about the important things in life. And it turns out that they are benefiting from what I'm reading because I am teaching them the same things that I'm reading.
Right.
And also I'm actually listening to those books in the car, for example, when I have my kids in the car. And sometimes I know some people here are gonna say, if I did that, my kids would like throw me out of the car. They would like leave. They wouldn't wanna, ride with me or anything. It's a gradual process, right? But I tell them in stories. I tell them like, I listen to this guy, this runner or this, gold medalist. They did this and they got that. So
Right.
when they hear the story, it's like, tell me more. I wanna know
Right.
more about that story. So I've created an environment where my kids, they want to learn more about what I'm doing, what I'm learning, what I'm doing, because I teach them in a way of like, I'm learning too, I'm listening too.
Right.
And I always tell them like, don't think that your mom and your dad, they are like, powerful and they know everything. And no, we know because we're older, and that's it. Yeah, we may be a little bit, intelligent and all that, but that's not the issue. The issue is that you have to create an environment for them to learn and to use those skills that you are also learning, right?
Right.
So stop telling yourself that you can't, right? Because if you think that buying a book, and it's great that you gave the tool of going into YouTube and getting all this, for free. But if you think that getting a $10 or $15 book is too expensive, then you have bigger problems.
Way bigger problems. Yeah.
Way bigger problems. So you need to get those books. You need to, and it's like the cheapest way that you can actually do them. The learning, I mean, So once you do that and you start learning, you start teaching your children as well that they have to do the same things. They have to keep learning. They don't have to learn what you learned, but they have to keep learning, right?
Right.
So by doing that, and it's also the good point that you mentioned. So Miguel, who just turned 16 last week, who's my older kid, I brought him to one of the events, one of the real estate events in Dallas. And the only reason that it's funny how everything works out, right? The only reason that I brought him was because I wanted him to record me because I was going to be on stage, right? And I knew there were going to be, people taking pictures and videos and all that, but I still wanted to have my own, right? So I brought my kid to do that for me, right? Well, lo and behold, I didn't know that he was going to get so much information from the other speakers.
Right.
And he was like so thankful to me because I brought him there.
Right.
And to be honest, I didn't bring him to learn, but he did. He was just like a sponge, and he absorbed so many things that he's actually using right now. So he's got an eBay store where he sells baseball cards, and that's doing well. He went on and he started a streaming channel on Twitch, and which I have to think about it because I don't even know what Twitch is, but he told me it's on Twitch and not YouTube. But anyway, so he started a channel there, and in a month, actually less than 30 days that he's been on the platform, he's already monetized because he knows how the game works.
Fantastic.
And he's talking all the time. He's working all the time. He goes to the gym every single day because he wants to be in better shape.
Very nice.
So healthy, right? Like, so it's a lot of stuff that I see him learning, and I see my other kids also learning. And I think, like, where do they get all this from? Are they getting that from my wife, from Shayla, or like, because like, and in the end, of course, I know they're getting it from me too, but it's just because I'm also learning and I'm also changing. I'm also, making myself better. I don't see the changes that they're actually going through as well at the same time that I'm going through the changes that I'm going through,
Right.
So, and it's crazy how just everything happens but I see all these things happening, and I'm so grateful. And that also goes to faith. I'm also listening to books about faith, God, and that's why I love talking to people that have faith as well, like you do, because I know we don't have to share the same faith, because I'm Catholic and now you're Jewish, but we are such good friends. Despite that, we don't have to make that a difference. We have to, in fact, we have to use the tools that we have to unite, not to divide. That's just, what people do out there, with the TVs and what they're doing to Israel, in Iran, and the Muslims and all that. That's just stupid. People are controlling you and you don't even realize it. What you need to do is just learn so you can give out as much as you can, because God didn't put you on this earth to do nothing and just to be mediocre. You have to do more for you, for your family, and for your community.
Right. Well, I think, and you hit the point right on, which is, I can't change the whole war, but I can be faithful. I can encourage people around me to be faithful. I can make a lot of money and contribute money to good causes. Those are things I can do. I can spend hours on TV watching, crying, and bitching about it, or I can actually get to work and in my little world make a difference. And so that's what I try to do. And that's, I think, real faith realizes, it comes with responsibilities to do the job. And just to recap what you said, you covered some real gold nuggets there. The impact on your family and your friends. And oftentimes we feel uncomfortable around people as we try to make changes. Two things that he said, just for those listening to recap. One is the immersion with your family and friends, that if you just tell them, hey, I have to listen to this, and this was my tactic, I have to listen to this as part of my business. And so I would listen to the recordings of coaches and speakers and books and such whenever in my car. I don't listen to the radio. I never really have for, since Coach Ziegler told me not to. I want to say 30 years ago. I don't listen to the news. Somehow I find out about the news without paying attention to it. I don't listen to ball games generally, maybe the one game of the year or something, but 9% of the time I'm listening to something I want to listen to, which is a podcast or a book or something in the car. And other people in my car, they'll go, can we listen to this? No, I don't listen to music. I don't want that thought in my brain. I don't want the news in my brain. I don't want the commercial in my brain. And so just like I would not sit in a toxic, poisonous environment physically, I wouldn't want to do it mentally. And the second thing you said about children is, and this is my experience, they listen to nothing you tell them. Like you can sit with your kid and tell them the whole secrets of the world, and they're going to fight and argue with you and do the opposite just to piss you off. But they watch everything you do. And I know along the way, Miguel's watched you, Luis, and I know also with your wife that you're committed, you do the work, and then your wife sees what you do and gets on board. You don't have to twist your arm. If you're doing the work, they're going to follow behind you. Maybe not as fast as you. They're going to struggle to keep up with you, perhaps. But that's what leadership is. And so for all of us, whether it be your friends, your family, your community, your family members, your children, your spouse, don't worry about pulling them along. You worry about being the best you, and everybody will want to be along with you. Who would not want to be with Luis with the success he's had? If you watch this podcast, you see the impact he's had on people, and I'm proud to call him a friend. So I think we'll wrap up there. Luis, again, Luis Salavarria is our guest today. He is available on LinkedIn, and then his company, if you want more information, is AmericanAssetLegacy.com, AmericanAssetLegacy.com. And it's both in Spanish and English, and you have on there a link to his podcast to learn more about it, and his podcast in Spanish. It's a good way. I've listened to a couple just to practice on my Spanish. And then you can also go to luissalavarria.com/double. Again, the links will be in the description down below if you're watching this. And with that, you'll both get a video of him, but you'll get a free guide on how to passively invest. And then to recap again, this is the LAREIC, the Los Angeles County Real Estate Investors Association, or LAREIC.com as the website. And this podcast is part of that program. Free live event in the Palms area of Los Angeles on the second Thursday of the month. So the next one will be May 9th at the Iman Center. And you can get the details. Click on here, and you'll see the Women's Real Estate Network will be the guest speakers, talk about, in particular, women options. And then our podcast, you can go to the Cash Flow Chronicles podcast.com and sign up if you don't get this already. Luis, thank you so much for your time. Congratulations on your tremendous success. And I really appreciate the time we spent with you today.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you for being here, for sure.
Fantastic. And the rest of you, hope you'll see you regularly. If you like this, like it. If you have suggestions, please put comments in the chat box. We do this podcast every Tuesday, 3 p.m. Pacific time, 5 p.m. Central in Houston, or 6 on the East Coast. Thank you, everybody. Have a fantastic